our U.S. correspondent, Rich Reynolds, with us this afternoon at BayRadio International. 12 minutes past 4, mainland Spain. How you doing?
Hola, amigo. Good to be here.
You good?
Yeah.
So what have you been doing for the past week?
I'll tell you, I think there may have been a convention on the air, and I was watching a lot of that, and I was driving my poor wife crazy watching convention coverage and stuff on YouTube and whatever I could find. And, you know, I'm a junkie. What can I say? I'm addicted to it, so I kind of enjoy it. It's almost like you can't get out of the way of it. It's everywhere, and it's on every network all the time.
So 10 weeks to go till the election, and I'm already addicted.
Yeah, you are addicted.
I am.
Are you? Don't you wish you could vote and all that nonsense?
I guess, but I mean, it's just. I just can't carry the cutthroat way that American politics works. It's just astounding.
Well, compared to UK politics, which is seems to be very civil to me.
Well, yes, and generally, I figured that sort of through the pandemic it was, but subsequently not so much. But wow, when you get to American politics, it really is quite harsh.
It's brutal, and you know, people have said, "Oh, this is one of the worst campaigns in history." It's the way they go at each other, and I said, "This is nothing compared to the 1830s, 1840s." Around the time of slavery, when Lincoln was president, what
divided the country? They fought about it.
It was awful. It was just they were just shredding each other and lying about each other and that sort of thing. So it's kind of an American tradition to lie, cheat, and win elections.
All right, we'll come to that shortly. First of all, the development the other day about the Telegram founder being arrested in France. This has had coverage right across the planet. Pavel Durov. I got told off the other day by a number of Ukrainian and Russian speakers who said, your pronunciation is rubbish. I'm still working on it. It's still not that much better. Anyway, the Russian founder of Telegram, who's arrested in Paris. Now, depends where you look, where you read. Some people feel very differently about the reasoning behind this. It said he has nothing to hide, and it's absurd to hold an owner responsible for abuse of the messaging and social media platform. That's what Telegram have said in a statement. Of course, it was founded in Russia. He's Russian, but he no longer lives there. He left because the government wanted to curtail and stop what he was doing and control it. And so he left so that he would be free in the free world. And Medvedev out of Russia today has been saying, we told him, they wouldn't let him do it in the West either.
Well, they closed him down in 2018 and they brought him back in 2021. So he's like a bad penny. He keeps coming back. But I don't know if everybody out there knows about Telegram. It's
similar to WhatsApp, if you like.
It's similar to WhatsApp. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. I'm a member of it, but every once in a while when I'm calling a call center or something like that, or a chat bot or something like that, they'll always say, we're on Telegram, follow us on Telegram. So I don't have any friends.
Has huge use in the Russian Federation, in Ukraine, and in countries of former Eastern Bloc, lots of users.
But as you and I were speaking off air, I think we're in agreement that Telegram is liable for what their members say.
It's weird because the EU have kind of distanced themselves from France in this, and the EU have just brought in some quite strong and heavy rules and regulations regarding platforms like this, but they're sitting back at the moment, and it's all about cybercrime, according to the inquiry. Some of the 12 crimes, according to French prosecutors, that they are alleging that Pavel Durov is responsible for, and they include complicity in possessing, disseminating child pornography and administering an online platform to allow organised crime, acquiring, transporting or offering narcotics. So where is it? Why is an online platform such as Telegram or WhatsApp or whichever one you like to mention different from radio, TV, newspapers? All have standards to uphold in countries that they broadcast or that they print or whatever it is that they do. Why should media platforms be any different?
Well, a phrase that they use in the States all the time is it's like the Wild West.
You have an amendment for this.
We have. That's right. That's right. It is free speech. But, the thing, you've worked in radio your whole life. I worked in radio and television my whole life. And you are accountable to federal organizations. There are certain things you cannot say. There are certainly things you cannot do. There are a lot of things you shouldn't do, but people will still do them. But the problem is, in those, you're not getting input from a billion people. Here, everybody is free on Facebook, on Instagram, blah, blah, blah. They're free to speak their mind and input, but where's that information? Where's that line drawn? And apparently there is no line. Nobody knows where the line is, and that's a big problem.
Well, that's what the EU has been trying to control with certain platforms, and of course it has strong connections with other things that have been going on. We've just seen the release of somebody who was locked up for putting a lot of information out on a platform, haven't we?
That's right. So the big question is, what are they going to do? Are they going to close down Telegram? You're going to close down a site that's got a billion people using it? I don't know. That's a financial decision. So I don't know what's going to happen in this, but you're right in that everybody's got to be accountable for what they say and the people that they let in the door. It's like a nightclub or a store. I mean, you're responsible for those people that you let in.
What gets me is that people on social media hide behind the keyboard. They're called, so-called keyboard warriors. They say and do things that they would not come up and say to you or do in the street. And so there is a line. There is a line, isn't there? In most civilized society, there's a line on what's acceptable and what isn't. But it's how do you police it, I guess, and whether that really is going to be what it comes down to.
And that line
investigation here.
That line is very different in Russia than it is in the UK or Spain
North Korea.
North Korea.
Or the US, where, like you say, with the amendment, free speech is slightly, it's different, isn't it?
Well, when Zuckerberg was called in front of Congress.
Well, he's saying today that they were trying to get him to not talk about COVID in a particular way, or vaccines and so on, or people on his platform.
And all you have to do is stand up and say free speech, Second Amendment. First Amendment. Second Amendment is gun ownership.
The right to bear arms.
First Amendment, I should say. But it's a door that's got to swing both ways.
Yeah,
really does.
Yeah, lots of commentary on that on social media. Anyway, we thought we would just start with that one. But of course, as Rich was alluding just before, talking about what has been going on in the United States recently, and the Democratic Convention had a surprise guest, actually, before we get into the nitty-gritty.
Well, the one they didn't have a surprise guest, they did not have Beyonce as a surprise guest.
Yes,
and everybody thought it was going to be her. I had even read that it might be Beyonce and Taylor Swift.
That's right. Maybe even together at the same time. Yeah,
I had heard that. That would have been a surprise to both of them. But Taylor Swift, I guess, was at her mansion in Rhode Island watching the whole thing from everything I've read. But they had Pink. And they had lots of other interesting people who showed up and performed. And I'll tell you, it was a 4-day rock show. It was just, as somebody who has watched dozens of these conventions over the years, I got to tell you, they really put on a show. They put on a party. They rolled out the big guns. They rolled out the Obamas and the Clintons, and they had actors and actresses speaking, and they had a DJ. Any of you that would like to see the roll call, you can call it up on YouTube. It's the DNC roll call, where every state comes in to view and offers how many.
It was great. DJ Cassidy rocked the convention.
DJ Cassidy.
And each of them had their own song, or even actually some of them stole two songs.
That's right.
Didn't they? And actually that was the link with what I was saying about a little bit earlier on. Because I made it all flow today. Okay. The last song in the first hour, Timbaland, The Way I Are. In the last hour as well, with Sex Machine from James Brown. Both of those songs used in that playlist for the states as they went through. And it was quite a good way to do it, I think, when they're basically what they're doing is they're saying how many votes from each state, right?
Right. Each state, I think the total number is 1,270. I could be off by a few, but around 1,270. And that's how many delegates they had. And so what happens is they pledge the delegates, and the state says, from the great state of Montana, we pledged 35 delegates, blah, blah, blah. And the person says, Montana, 35 votes. Mm-hmm. And that's just tallied up. And that's how the Republicans do it. That's the way it's been done in the past. It's just somebody, usually the governor, lieutenant governor, some policy wonk. Here they had actors doing it. The state of Indiana had Sean Astin, who played Rudy in the movie about Notre Dame.
These Michael Jacksons don't stop till you get enough for that.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
I mean, in fact, Kansas that we just played before, Carry On My Way, was obviously Kansas. Some of them tied them in, didn't they? Like Idaho with Private Idaho for the B-52s, but others were just. But in fact, even there was a current track, Missouri, You Chappelle Roan, current number 1 on the BayRadio Top 10. Good Luck, Babe, as well. So, and that's a brand new song. So it wasn't just all the classics.
I was wondering. I'm glad you said that because I lived in Missouri for almost 10 years. I did not recognize that song. I am not a.
We've been playing it quite a bit.
I am
in fact, I've just played it in the last hour as well.
I'm just not a contemporary guy. I am just not.
But there were some Taylor songs. There were Black Eyed Peas, House of Pain. Of course, Bruce Springsteen was New Jersey's.
Yep.
But yeah, good way to do it.
It was fun. It was just a week-long party. It was fun, and now the hard work gets done, and now we're down to 69 days and counting. As you said, 10
weeks. 10 weeks to go till the election.
Right. From today, 10 weeks from today.
And overall, you were happy with the...
I was really happy. You know, I really love what they did. I really liked the words that were being said. They kind of rang true. I like the people who were speaking. I thought the party came out of it looking really good and in really a good space. And the fact that according to one poll, and I'm sure we'll get to this later, she's up by 7 points nationally when Joe Biden had them down by 10 or 12. And things are looking really bad for the Democratic Party. Things are looking a lot brighter right now.
And it seems to have had an effect on Mr. Trump as well, again, which we'll come to in a little bit. And Mark's just pointing out that he thought Obama was great, brilliant comic timing.
Yep.
But a lot of people thought Michelle was better than him.
She was great. And she had a different speech than he did. You know, she spoke to women.
And slightly different than the way she normally goes as well, because she doesn't normally attack people individually. But because Trump had been doing it, she did it this time.
Yeah, she was great. No, she's a great speaker, and so is he. You know, he's great. I thought Bill Clinton looks a little fragile. That's just my opinion. He's a
little bit older.
He's getting up there. Yeah. And usually he's like having a superstar for the Democratic Party. He's always a great speaker, but his speech was a little frail. But I thought, but good and solid. A lot of good points.
Okay.
So
plenty of COVID.
Plenty of COVID. Apparently, a lot of people got COVID at that convention, so they went to see Beyonce. They came home with COVID. That apparently was a problem.
Without seeing Beyonce.
Without seeing Beyonce. But, apparently COVID is becoming a big thing in the States. It's back with a vengeance, and I know we're going to be talking about that a little bit later. But, there was quite a few people got COVID coming out of the arena, which holds about 20,000 people.
So if you're interested, you can go to Democratic National Convention or DNC 2024 Roll Call on Spotify, and it'll bring you up the full list. Thought we'd do this one, the tune that was chosen by the Democrats abroad to announce there. How many did they have? Did you know? What did they say, the Democrats abroad?
How many they had there?
Yeah.
I think it was like a half a dozen or so. They may have had a few more than that. You know, some of those delegations were small. California had 450, something like that. That was insane. But
and of course,
I know I'm going to hear from the DA people when I'm off the air. But I think from what I heard, it was like 6 or 10 people, something like that. But
all right, back to business.
Yeah.
The new COVID vaccine is out in the States, but maybe you don't want to get it just yet.
Well, what they're saying is that there is a new vaccine. The amount of COVID cases are on the uptick right now. That 2,000 people in the States died during the month of July. That's a lot of people. It's, however, 25,700 died in 2020, the year of living dangerously that we all lived through. But what they're saying, the people in charge, is that you may want to wait to get your vaccine, not because it's untested, not because it doesn't work, but because flu season in the States is, as it is most places, is October, November, December, that sort of thing. And if you get it now, it may wear off or may be less effective than if you wait. Of course,
then COVID mutates through time as well. Of course. So you're more susceptible. Yeah. You want to get it for the winter season, really.
And, the problem is just convincing anybody to do it because, as you remember, and a lot of people who are listening and live over here know, we were all dying to get the vaccine back in 2020. We couldn't get it.
Yeah, and dying.
Literally dying. 1,000 people a day just in Valencia were dying. I know that, and we're a medium-sized city.
Terrible numbers in Madrid also.
Horrible, just horrible. But the thing is, people in the States got it, people in the UK had it, and we were. I don't know if we could say we're one of the last countries to get it, but certainly one of the.
Yeah, it just seemed like all of a sudden in Europe, Italy had it, and then everybody else straight away.
That's right. That's right. So
a lot of it's to do with reporting and so on.
But right now, people in the States are very nonchalant about it. Hey, if I get COVID,
I've got the figures from the WHO, right, the World Health Organization, for the 7 days to the 11th of August this year, 1,351. And I'm guessing that's per 100,000, is it? By the look of it, I don't know. Yeah. No, that's just the number.
Total
that's
number.
The total number, 1,351. Europe, meanwhile, 36,830.
36,000 in Europe.
Yeah. So we know that Spain recently has been struggling. We do report regularly on the news if there's a spike in numbers. But, we're in the summer period, and I think that's been a lot of travelling, people moving about that's caused that. And, of course, like you say, we're not in the winter season yet. But a lot of us...
But I haven't, and sorry to interrupt, but I haven't seen a lot of chatter.
You're not?
In Europe about getting your shots and getting that done, because that's, obviously 4 years ago, that's all we talked about.
They have standard programs for places like Spain. I know that my mum and a lot of her friends, they just called in and so they had both the flu and the COVID. Some of them at the same time.
They do.
Yeah.
So if we go to our local health center, there's a good chance.
If you're over a certain age, which I believe is something like 60, then you're entitled.
Well, I don't think either of us are any. We're not. It's been a while since I've been to medical school, which was never. But
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, okay. I don't want anybody to go, well, when was it that you went? But it was. It's a case where I believe in vaccines, and I'm going to get mine, and I know it helped out, and. I think I ended up getting 3 shots over those 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I know it mutates, but some people who prefer not to have the vaccines may have had it, may have not got it. I know somebody who only just got it recently and never got it all the way through the pandemic. But and as things go on, you build up antibodies. That herd immunity that they were talking about improves. So it's up to each and everybody on their own. If they want to get it or not. Meanwhile, I've seen a couple of news stories, and we've not really talked about this on the BayRadio International News because it's been happening south of Spain, West Nile virus, but that has actually come up in the news in the States, not least because it's quite a famous person that contracted it.
Dr. Fauci.
Who was the big COVID guy for
He was our
COVID
czar for the entire time under the Trump administration, and he came down with West Nile. And he's confined. He's on the upswing right now, apparently, and he's confined to his home. But he got it really, really badly, and he got.
So he was hospitalized, yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And when he was asked how he got it, he said, "I think I got it in my backyard."
I know it wasn't like he travelled to somewhere exotic with his job, just in his backyard. And where's he from?
I believe he lives in New York.
Right.
But he is. 83 years old, so he's got to be really careful about that. And there's, but God bless him, he's on the upswing right now, and really feeling good about that. And that's not something you get a vaccination for. You can't go, to my knowledge, you can't. It's not preemptive. I don't think you can go to your doctor and say, "Could I have a West Nile thing?" And I haven't seen. For me personally, mosquitoes are not a big problem. I know they can be, but I haven't seen as big of a problem.
They're out after the rain last week. Yeah,
and there are people in the United States who live in places like Minnesota.
Oh, I'm reading
where they're the size of hummingbirds.
I'm reading a historical book now, and it's right at the very beginning of American European history, if you like, and they are actually focusing quite a lot on that, on insects and the like. I know they were bad in Canada, but I didn't realize that it was so much, in the United States.
And the southern United States also very much because they breed they breed in water, and a lot of people had. I remember when I was living in Oregon, we had we used to have an infestation of mosquitoes from time to time, and we had a I don't know, like a little fountain in the back, and sometimes the fountain ran, sometimes it didn't if we plugged it in, and we had to be careful about that because as everybody knows, the mosquitoes breed in still water, and you got to clean those out.
Okay, we're probably going to run out of time if we carry on this
Oh, boy.
the way we are today. Let's move on to Ann Coulter. Bit of a backlash after the posting at the convention about Tim Walz's son. Really wrong thing to say at the wrong time.
I got to tell you, there's something wrong with her. She ain't right. You know, it's as they say in the South. It's, you know, she was, anybody who saw the convention, Tim Walz, the vice presidential candidate, his son is 17 years old, and he's special needs. He's got he has some issues that he's dealing with, and
ADHD, anxiety disorder.
You know, a number of things.
Non-verbal learning disorder, I think
that's
is
right.
the correct way to pronounce it, to say it these days.
So he doesn't speak much, but what he could say was, "That's my dad up there."
Yeah, but he was bawling at the time.
He was crying.
I mean, he was quite emotional.
He loved his dad so much, and he was out there crying, going, "Oh, I love my dad, and that's my dad up there," as any of us would do.
Not the way that Ann Coulter portrayed it.
No, she called him weird. Can you believe it? Look at that. It's a weakness. And the Democrats have done it again, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, how callous are you to make fun of someone's special needs kid?
And really, she did get a pasting for it.
She did. There's been a lot of blowback on social media. She shouldn't have said it. And being Ann Coulter and being a real hard-nose, she didn't back down on any of it. She doubled down and said, well, he's a weird kid, and she's moving on.
She was just switching that weird moniker back as well from the Republicans to the Democrats.
Yeah. So, you know, you just don't make fun of people who have special needs kids. It's
not sure how much it had to do in the polls, but as you mentioned, Harris leading Trump by 7 points in the latest poll, which came out Friday, right?
Yeah, she's doing really quite well. And of course, those numbers are going to vary up and down depending on the poll you look at. There's one that's called a Rasmussen poll. It leans heavily Republican. So when they did a poll last week, the Rasmussen poll said Trump is in the lead. But it's the only one I've seen where Trump is in the lead on anything. So everything is, as I said before, is trending upward for Harris and Walz. The 7 points is the largest spread I have seen so far. So I think it's going to change. Now, the RFK throwing his support behind Trump, that may move the needle a little bit either way.
We've got that on our agenda a little bit later in the review or not at all. I think it was there, and then I'm not sure if we've left it in, but I think we did. That was the headline, wasn't it? A UK site, actually, Sky News, saying a sad ending to a sad story. This was Kennedy's family criticising RFK Jr., wasn't it? Because he endorsed Trump and said that obviously he was going to try as an independent, and now has decided to throw his weight behind Trump in those states where he thought he was going to do quite well. But of course, he doesn't come from a Republican family,
to say the least. You know,
quietly.
You know, his dad was running for president. His uncle was JFK, and for him to back a Republican, and he's a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, you know. But he's run for president now 3 times. 2016, 2020, and now on none of those times will he be inaugurated as president. So he threw it behind Trump because he's trying to be a rebel.
But I think he also feels that he's going to get a decent position following Trump's election to be elected.
There you go. And there was a lot of talk between him and the Trump camp that he wants to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Can you imagine? He's a non-vaxxer. He has no medical training. He has no interest in that.
But why is it that particular position is just the most innocuous that they can give him?
It's because of his stance on
anti-vaxxing.
Okay. Yeah, that way he can get it through. And I don't know, because he's a firm believer that vaccines cause autism, and that's what he's been spewing for a number of years. That's his position. That's all he has to stand on. And so for that, he's angling for this.
Didn't he? Because he talked about the U.S. government's use of vaccine mandates. It was basically, even in Hitler's Germany, this is the quote, you could cross the Alps into Switzerland, you could hide in an attic like Anne Frank did. Today, the mechanisms are being put in place that will make it so none of us can run and none of us can hide.
Pretty interesting coming from a guy who comes from interminable wealth and this guy is never wanted for anything, but he's been positioning himself as an outsider, that he's somebody who he's not in the mainstream like Trump, although Trump is not on the mainstream. He's not on the mainstream like Biden. And so he can offer a little bit more, but the most he was polling was, I heard somebody say almost 20%. I don't believe that for a bit.
In some states? Or
yeah, no, I
really?
don't know what it was. Somebody said, I saw his poll as high as 20. I go, nah. The highest poll I ever saw with him is 12. Now he's down to below 5. So the big question is, are his supporters going to go to Trump, or are they just not going to show up? A lot of these people are just going to say, I'm not going to vote. I'll vote for the senator from Vermont. I'll vote for my governor from Iowa, whoever, whatever state I'm in, but I'm just not going to vote for president. And if that's the case, I don't know who it's going to hurt.